In March 1775, the Virginia Assembly was in a precarious position. The Assembly had been dissolved by Lord Dunmore, the Royal Colonial Governor of Virginia, after they had sided with the objections of the New Englanders. In spite of this dissolution, the Assembly decided to convene in secret, first in Williamsburg, but, determining their security was in danger, they moved westward. The Second Virginia Convention, as it would be known, met in Richmond, Virginia, within the wooden halls of St. John's Church on March 23, 1775. The delegates were divided on what their course of action should be. Patrick Henry, a member of the House of Burgesses from Hanover County, would step forward to bring a fiery whirlwind that would alter the course of history. What exactly was said by Patrick Henry is not known. Our only transcript of the speech comes from Sketches of the Life and Character of Patrick Henry by William Wirt, the 9th Attorney General of the United States. Wirt had interviewed a number of individuals who had attended the speech and developed from this an embellished account of what Patrick Henry said. Wirt would write the following. He rose this time with a majesty unusual to him, and an exordium, and with all that self-possession by which he was so invariably distinguished. No man, he said, thought more highly than he did of the patriotism, as well as abilities, of the very worthy gentleman who had just addressed the House. But different men often saw the same subject in different lights, and therefore he hoped it would not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen if, entertaining as he did, opinions of a character very opposite to theirs. He should speak forth his sentiments freely and without reserve. This, he said, was no time for ceremony. The question before the House was one of awful moment to this country. For his own part, he considered it nothing less than a question of freedom or slavery, and in proportion to the magnitude of the subject ought to be the freedom of the debate. It was only in this way that they could hope to arrive at truth and fulfill the great responsibility which they held to God and their country. Should he keep back his opinions at such a time, through fear of giving offense, he should consider himself as guilty of treason towards his country, and of an act of disloyalty towards the majesty of heaven, which he revered above all earthly kings. Mr. President, he said, it is natural to man to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against a painful truth, and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is it, he asked, the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Were we disposed to be of the number of those who, having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not, the things which so nearly concern their temporal salvation? For his part, whatever anguish of spirit it might cost, he was willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it. He had, he said, but one lamp by which his feet were guided, and that was the lamp of experience. He knew of no way of judging of the future but by the past, and judging by the past, he wished to know what there had been in the conduct of the British ministry for the last 10 years, to justify those hopes with which gentlemen had been pleased to solace themselves in the House. Is it that insidious smile with which our petitions have been lately received? Trust it not, sir. It will prove a snare to your feet. Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed with a kiss. Ask yourselves how this gracious reception of our petition comports with those warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken our land. Are fleets and armies necessary to a work of love and reconciliation? Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to be reconciled that force must be called in to win back our love? Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. These are the implements of war and subjugation, the last arguments to which kings resort. I ask, gentlemen, sir, What means this martial array, if its purpose be not to force us to submission? Can gentlemen assign any other possible motive for it? Has Great Britain any enemy in this quarter of the world to call for all this accumulation of navies and armies? No, sir, she has none. They are meant for us. They can be meant for no other. They are sent over to bind and rivet upon us those chains which the British ministry have been so long forging. And what have we to oppose to them? Shall we try argument? Sir, we have been trying that for the last 10 years. Have we anything new to offer upon the subject? Nothing. We have held the subject up in every light of which it is capable. But it has been all in vain. Shall we resort to entreaty and humble supplication? What terms shall we find which have not been already exhausted? Let us not, I beseech you, sir, deceive ourselves longer. Sir, we have done everything that could be done to avert the storm which is now coming on. We have petitioned, we have remonstrated, we have supplicated, we have prostrated ourselves before the throne, and have implored its interposition to arrest the tyrannical hands of the ministry in Parliament. Our petitions have been slighted, our remonstrances have produced additional violence and insult, our supplications have been disregarded, and we have been spurned with contempt from the foot of the throne. In vain, after these things, may we indulge the fond hope of peace and reconciliation? There is no longer any room for hope. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve inviolate those inestimable privileges for which we have been so long contending, if we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle on which we have been so long engaged, and which we have pledged ourselves never to abandon until the glorious object of our contest shall be obtained, we must fight. I repeat, sir, we must fight. An appeal to arms and to the God of hosts is all that is left us. They tell us, sir, continued Mr. Henry, that we are weak, unable to cope with so formidable an adversary. But when shall we be stronger? Will it be the next week or the next year? Will it be when we are totally disarmed and when a British guard shall be stationed in every house? Shall we gather strength by irresolution and inaction? Shall we acquire the means of effectual resistance by lying supinely on our backs and hugging the delusive phantom of hope until our enemies shall have bound us hand and foot? Sir, we are not weak, if we make a proper use of those means which the God of nature hath placed in our power. 3 millions of people, armed by the holy cause of liberty, and in such a country as that which we possess, are invincible by any force which our enemy can send against us. Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone. There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations, and who will raise up friends to fight our battles for us. The battle, sir, is not to the strong alone. It is to the vigilant, the active, the brave. Besides, sir, we have no election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat, but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their kinkling may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable, and let it come. I repeat, sir, let it come. It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war is actually begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear, or peace so sweet, as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God! I know not what course others may take, but as for me, cried he, with both of his arms extended aloft, his brows knit, every feature marked with the resolute purpose of his soul, and his voice swelled to its boldest note of exclamation. "Give me liberty, or give me death!" Patrick Henry's speech had deeply moved the convention, prompting them to prepare the Virginia militia for the impending war. As Wirt's version of the speech testified, the words would harbor the truth, as, in April 1775, the American War for Independence would begin, forever altering the course of history. Regardless of whether these words were exact, Wirt's version of the speech would become the cornerstone of the ethos of the founding of the Republic, and a source of pride for the Virginians. During the Virginia Secession Convention, Henry A. Wise would approach the secession crisis with the same energy as Patrick Henry. William Preston, a delegate from South Carolina, would hearken back to this speech in his speech to the Secession Convention. The line, "Give me liberty or give me death," would be echoed again and again, becoming the zeitgeist of the ideals of the American Revolution, forever emblazoned in the minds of men as the ultimate cry for freedom.